Welcome back to Man with Issues. Men with Issues. Men with Issues. That's what this show's called. Take it from here, Justin. It's basically like I'm reading the devotional now again.
It'd be all right.
Man, hey, your voice cracks. I say the wrong show name. Hey, perfect. All right.
Perfect start.
Yep. Why not ruin our record of imperfection with perfection?
That's right.
Good grief. We should start over.
What I used to say, it's real world, people. It's real world.
That's HVAC talk. That's HVAC talk for I'm not going to pull the right vacuum. Hey, this is real world, man. It's the real world, bro. Hey, happy Valentine's Day, man.
Yeah. What y'all do?
Hey, man, why'd you say happy Valentine's Day to me?
Happy Valentine's Day to you too, Zach.
I feel better now. No, today I was pretty much at home all day. We went out last night to that to the Olive Garden we were talking about before the show started. I know,
Fancy.
Right? I know. You I don't know if you remember Nick and Monica who came on the show before you joined up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every time I go to Olive Garden, I forgot to last night. I send him a picture because he's Italian and he says it's not real Italian food. So I always send him a picture of whatever I'm having, like the chicken parmigiana or whatever kind of weird stuff they've concocted that's not really Italian.
Yeah.
He texts me back something I can't
it's
read
like
on air.
Messing with your Mexican friend and taking a picture every time you're at Taco Bell drive-thru.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, the cinnamon twists in Mexico.
Oh man.
Well, what did you do, man?
We didn't do much of anything. We went out and ate this afternoon. Went to church this morning. Come home for a little bit. Ate lunch and then went and ate at Cheddar's. That's about it.
Good old Cheddar's. The only place I've ever seen that has 537 menu items to choose from. It's impressive.
I don't know. I don't think it's that big anymore since the whole COVID thing happened. They kind of got. I think it's kind of a limited menu now.
You know what? You're right. The last time we went, it was during the whole coronavirus deal. So, yeah, it was much shorter. Everybody gives you like disposable stuff now, or like a menu that's like one page that's laminated so they can wipe it off, I guess, whenever they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's smaller. It's probably better for Cheddar's because I don't know how they can make all that stuff to begin with.
Right. That's less stuff they have to stock. So,
yeah, or freeze. Let's be honest. It's a bunch of frozen slabs in the back.
Hey, do you think what's funny though? You think all these restaurants that have limited menu and stuff now, and so they're able to pump the food out a lot quicker because there's less to pick from. Do you think once this is all said and done, they go back to the big menu, or they say, "Nah, this worked really well. Let's just stick to this."
I'd stay with what they're doing now, man. It'd be easier.
Yeah,
I think they do stuff better when they just do like 4 or 5 things, or like when we were moved out for the fire, we were renting a house. We were renting a house in a neighborhood that was a really nice neighborhood. Just happened to be where we could go. And they have like their little clubhouse. It was stereotypical, like rich neighborhood. There's a little clubhouse. They have their own restaurant inside of the clubhouse. And you go in there, they had like 5 items to choose from. And they change them every now and then, but it's always just like 5 items. And it was always really good. So
yeah,
I guess
I think you can do too much. You can do too much.
Yeah. In life. That's like a life lesson, man. What a great life lesson.
I wasn't going to take it that far, but okay.
Hey, man, let's make it. Hey, just like Joe says, it's a big picture diagnosis, life lesson. I think that's Chris, though, actually.
That is.
I don't know why he's making Chris illusions. That's strange. And good to have Joe here. In fact, I'm glad Joe was here. I didn't mention this to you before the show got started. But last time Joe was talking about another YouTube channel called Living Waters. You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, I went and checked it out. I mean, I subscribed on the air, I do believe. So I watched some of the videos and I started to recognize some of the stuff Joe had talked about before with me actually came from this channel. Some of the methodology for reaching non-believers. Right. And it was really good. I mean, this guy is gutsy. He's like in California, like at the beach doing street preaching to just a bunch of random people who probably don't, believe anything like what he's saying. But it's really interesting to hear him out there. He's yelling the whole time. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? And there's like this circle of Californians around him. And I wonder about his safety.
Right.
At some point. Because he's getting yelled at a lot of the time too. So it's interesting.
I don't know if you've seen this or not. I know you don't spend a whole lot of time on Facebook, but have you seen where Kirk Cameron's doing like 100-day Campfire Revival or something like that. He goes live on Facebook every night, and he's going to do it every night for 100 days.
I did not know
just
that.
Talking about different stuff. I haven't watched every one of them, but the few that I have watched have been pretty good.
I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll go find it so I don't forget. Is that you following Kirk Cameron like he's a page?
Yeah. Okay. Like, it's his page.
I'm gonna do it right now because Joe has taught me that when someone gives you a good idea, don't hesitate, go find it. Oh, it's right here at the top. I type in Kirk, it says Kirk Cameron Campfire.
Yep, that's it. Campfire Revival or something he's calling it.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, Kirk Cameron was on one of the videos with this guy that's on the Living Waters channel. He's actually on there with some. They filmed some stuff. It looks like it's really old because the guys, they're both much younger in this video. So it's kind of interesting that you mentioned him. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. His name is Ray something. Joe, the preacher's name is Ray something. The Living Waters guy. Check it out. Yeah. It's interesting. Guys out there. I don't know what Joe's talking about. Mother's cuss word stuff. I don't know what that is.
I don't know. Have you used your mother's name as a curse word? I don't think I have.
Maybe he's comparing it. Maybe it's something I haven't seen yet on this Living Waters channel because he always goes through Ray Comfort. He always goes through the commandments in order to prove that people have all done these things and are all guilty of the law and need Christ to kind of sanctify them because they can't uphold the law. And that might be something he said in a different video that I haven't seen. I'm guessing that's what it was. Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Because he'll go in there.
Familiar.
Yeah. If you've never seen it, you're not going to know what he's talking about. No. Well, Valentine's Day is special. We have a great show tonight. A lot of it's going to be stuff we think of on the spot up until the very end, right?
Probably, yes.
So what's going to happen right now, Beaver? Take it.
Oh, it's like that?
I figured that this will spark you into a great fit of imagination.
Well, I think with it being Valentine's Day, one of the things we should talk about is probably love, right?
I like it. That's good.
So, you know where I'm going with that? Where would you go? And I had to have a refresher in this morning in church. If you want to talk about love in scripture-wise, where would you go?
Well, I can say two places that I think of. And I think of the Gospel of John, and at the beginning, God so loved the world. And then I actually read 1 John today, and there's a part that's called God is Love. So that's what I would think of. Now, what are you thinking about?
1 Corinthians chapter 13.
That's a good one. That's right. Okay, yeah, that's right. All right, no one's getting married. I didn't think of that one.
Yeah. It's often used for marriage, but yeah, I mean that's what the whole chapter is basically about, right? Is love. Well, that's how it's labeled in my Bible, anyway.
Yeah, no, you're exactly. I'm surprised I couldn't think of that just because I read this John today. I was clouded with this great passage he wrote. Dang it! Go ahead. I know you want to read the whole book of
Song of Solomon. That's Song of Solomon, I should say.
She's got good stuff there, you know.
She's on to something there.
Yep. And you're not going to read the entire passage now? I thought you were going to break down the, love is patient, love is kind.
I am not going to read that entire chapter.
My favorite part is love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. That's what I like to remind my wife of. So you know how, you said like I didn't do something last week? Well, the Bible says don't keep a record of wrongs. So that's what I like to tell her.
Yeah.
And she's like, be quiet. Then all of a sudden the Bible, we shouldn't be reading it anymore because it tells I didn't have to take out the trash. I'm just joking.
Well, I think a lot of what we focused on, I think was like the first 8 verses, I think is kind of what we was reflecting on this morning. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. It's just in a nutshell, what it's talking about is like, for example, verse 2, if you have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, so you have all the knowledge in the world, you can figure anything out. You're a super smart guy. Let's see. And if I have faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And there's a lot of verses that to refer to things like that. So in other words, you can do all the things in the world, but love is the number one thing above all.
That's right. Because remember, we were talking about this before that Jesus said you could fulfill all the commandments of the law by loving God and loving your neighbor. You fulfill all commandments through that. And all of it's love. Love this, love that, and the whole passage. I was going to not necessarily read because it's pretty long, but in 1 John chapter 4, verse 7, there's a whole section called "God is Love." It just talks about how God loves us, and if you can tell a person that's in God or has Jesus Christ in his heart because you can see the love coming off of them. You can see them love people. You don't see the negativity and stuff, which I think is really important. But man, Corinthians is good though. That was good, man. That's like the perfect one.
Yeah, we've been spending a lot of time in Corinthians and Colossians, some Second Timothy. There's a lot of good stuff. You could pretty much pick any book of the Bible and get good stuff from it. So
that's what I found. I said the New Testament, they like to repeat like the good stuff. They will make sure that you know what you're supposed to know, especially Paul. Paul, every book he writes is because he's writing it to different churches. He's saying similar stuff in a lot of them. It's like if you miss this, you want to miss stuff. I mean, you're not watching, Yeah. So I feel like
I think it kind of rolls into we talk about love, you're supposed to love everybody, you're supposed to love your neighbor and all this stuff, but people have a hard time with that now. Whether it be family members they don't get along with, maybe somebody from a different political view they don't get along with, whatever the case may be in this crazy world that we live in, it's really hard, especially somebody that you really don't agree with or you really have a past with or whatever. And, God tells you should love them. And that's really hard to do sometimes. People say, oh, he's done me wrong so many times or this or that, or he's crazy. I could never think like that. I don't want nothing to do with that guy. Well, look at us. We're a perfect example. We're loved by Jesus and we're not deserving of it whatsoever. But yet he loves us. So
I think it's interesting because he goes to like great lengths, or different writers. John wrote some good stuff. Paul wrote some good stuff. I feel like I'm naming off the Beatles now. John and Paul, man. They had stuff in there, just like stressing that if you have hatred in your heart for anybody, you're not with Jesus. Right. You can tell it coming up. Right here, John chapter 3 or 1 John chapter 3 verse 15. Everyone who hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life abiding in him. And that's like the third time that I've read that exact same statement in the New Testament. It's all over the place. So if you have hate coming off you, it's like a red flag. And you know what? Tell me what you think of this. In our society now, everything is gray. Everything is kind of murky between right and wrong. And it's almost like it's by design. I think it is by design. Then we talk about the devil, the evil one, whatever the Bible calls him, whichever spot you're in. Is that not a brilliant thing to turn everything into a mix of right and wrong so you can't tell the difference?
Yeah, because then there's no clarity. That's when it turns into that. That's like we've talked about in the past. When you start putting man's opinion into things, or this hurts my feelings, then you start making exemptions for all those different things, right? Well, we got to be understanding with this, or that's got to be okay, or we're going to do this. And you get away from the Bible and what we're told that we should do.
Everything gets a little watered down on purpose. I think it's a purposeful effort. And the more people don't read, the more it gets watered down more and more. Because then you go off of someone's impression of the Bible. You don't go off the Bible anymore. You go off, well, I know there was a flood or something and Jesus came. I don't know what happened. Then you get stories like that, which is what this Living Waters guy, he's out there and asking them questions. And they have like a general idea what the Bible says. They know like these bold points, like, yeah, Jesus came. He's like, he knew God or something like that. But there's a whole lot of ignorance on what it says, which is interesting to me because you have these things about if you hate your brother, it's the same as murder. So, well, that just tells you how strong hatred is. It's interesting. But let me put up here. Joe says, I was thinking 2, after all the generations of about 6 or 7,000 years of screw up humanity, I can't believe God still has mercy on us. Absolutely. Well, I was
Yeah.
thinking about that because you came up with your devotion, and I was reading that. It's from Genesis, and I was thinking about the very first thing that came out. The guy and the woman. They'll say both of them because they were both there when they were in the Garden of Eden screwing up. They were together when it happened. But like the very first two people, God gave them pretty much everything, and they screwed that up. Like at the very beginning, right off the bat.
Mhm.
Can blame
Yep.
snakes. I hate snakes. I guess there's a
Me
reason
too.
why that is.
Me too.
Oh my gosh! Hey,
Perfect animal to be.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, man. Here's like your 1 minute side story. I took my wife to. It's not a flea market. It's like people who repurpose furniture and stuff like that. They have these big places with a whole bunch of different vendors, and they have like dressers that people redo and they paint and they sell and craft stuff. So my wife loves this stuff. So I took her there yesterday. The very back of this place. It's the grand opening. There's this group of people that have snakes and birds. It's like, why are they here? I don't know. This guy has like an 8-foot snake wrapped around him. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't cuss. I try not to cuss at all anymore, but I about one rip when I saw the snake. And I'm glad I caught myself because I'm like, I'm getting the hit. Okay, I'm just going to walk over there.
Yeah.
They scare me. I'm going to be honest with you. I ain't scared of much, but I'm scared of that snake.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, imagine, and I don't know how North Carolina is in the area you are, but Southeast Georgia, where I'm at, every poisonous snake you can think of is here. So it's like, if you're scared of snakes, it's like the worst place in the world to live outside of maybe like Australia or something, or South Africa or something.
That's pretty good. I feel like Willie Nelson. It's like always on my mind every time I go outside. Always on my mind.
Yeah, there's some big nasty ones here, boy.
Yeah, we had
Eastern Diamondback. Whew.
Mm-hmm. Copperhead, water moccasins.
Water
everywhere.
moccasins. Yeah. Cottonmouth, whatever you refer to it as.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I like we're getting some good comments. Let's see. Here's Doug. That's in Revelations about not knowing what's right or wrong. Interesting. And I wish I could find it now. I'm gonna have to find it. There's something that goes right along with that. I'm gonna see if I can't locate it. That's a good statement right there. I'm 3 pages away from Revelations, so I'll know that a little bit better next week.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. I'm gonna find something. Go ahead.
The thing about, I guess the thing about Revelations and the tribulation and the whole 7 years and all that stuff, after the rapture and all that. I guess the thing that has always puzzled me about it is, when you watch movies about it and stuff, it's about, they portray it like everybody just disappears, right? He calls he calls godly people home, yada yada yada, and then they portray it as everybody just disappears. So I always thought in my mind, like, most people know that that's in the Bible, right? They know that that's what Christians believe, that one day the rapture will happen and millions of people will disappear. How would that, I will say this, you would think when that time comes and millions of people disappear, it would make everybody run to the Bible because they would go, oh crap, it's true. Look what just happened. That's in the Bible. It says that's going to happen. So I guess my thing is it really, do you think it'll really be that black and white? Do you think everybody will just disappear? And if they do, how does that not make millions more run to the Bible because they realize it's happening?
That's an interesting statement right there. I don't know. I haven't read Revelations in a long, long time, but going off what you just said and the memory of what happens in there, I remember it says something about one person will disappear and one person will still be working in the field side by side. One of them disappears, one of them remains.
Mm-hmm.
And, you'd think that would spur a great migration toward the Bible if people were able to connect what happened to a prophecy of what was going to happen. You would think so, but there's a lot of stuff that happens in our world that so far from the Bible when the Bible's sitting here right in front of them. I don't know. I don't know how that'll be.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's a scary part of the Bible. You think if people read this, that they would be like, "Whoa, I want to be on the good side of this."
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that's completely off topic about what we were talking about, but it's one of those things I've always wondered, like how would that not scare people into running to the Bible? Um, I, I
you
don't know.
think that it would. I mean, it's like you said, you're asking a common sense question. Me or you would be like, "Well, yeah, I think I'd want to investigate the Bible pretty thoroughly at that point."
Hmm.
But there's people out there that don't believe, and they'll come up with some reason why it happened that's not biblical. There'll be something else that would happen. I don't know. Thanos came along or something. I don't know. I can see that happening. So I
All I
found what I
know
was
is
looking for.
I won't be here to find out. But yes, continue
Yeah,
on.
by that time, yeah, probably not. So this is Timothy, or this is Second Timothy chapter 3. It's right off the bat in chapter 3. It says godlessness in the last days, which is sort of going along with what we were talking about there, or what Doug
Hmm.
mentioned a second ago.
What'd you say? Second Timothy.
Second Timothy chapter 3.
Okay.
And it says, "But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty. For people will be lovers of self, check.
Yep.
Lovers of money, check.
Check.
Proud, arrogant, abusive." There's 3 more checks right there.
Hmm.
Disobedient to their parents. Only had to do walk outside this door to figure that one out.
Yep.
Ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness. I think that's one of the biggest parts of that. Having the
Yep.
appearance of godliness, but denying its power. Avoid such people.
Hmm.
For for among those them are for among them are those who creep into households and capture weak women burdened with sins and led astray by various passions, always learning and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth.
Yeah.
That really that left out of me, because in the middle of all these books here, that was like a huge, like, blaring red light. It's like that describes, and I'm sure that people could probably rationalize that to describe several different time periods in history,
Hmm.
but that sounds
Sure.
a lot like our culture now, with everybody's on social media, everybody's exalted themselves. We're basically the emperors of our own brands on social media. So
Yeah.
all this godliness here, everybody's making judgments just like they were a god,
Hmm.
and then denying the actual God. It really just, I thought it was pretty interesting, that passage. And again, that's Second Timothy chapter 3, right there at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to it about the time you finished up. So yeah, I got you. But chapter 3 is labeled the same way in my Bible. It says godlessness in the last days. So
Interesting. I thought that was a pretty interesting passage. I'm glad I remembered. That's one of my concerns reading through for the first time in a long time. So I hope I remember in general where some stuff is at. And then my gut tells me, say, well, you're going to after the third time you read through it, I'm sure, or the fourth
hmm.
time you read through it. But that's why I'm trying to do like I did the other day, where I do like a little short live stream where I go over the verses that I had just read. It did help me like remember them a little bit better and where they were at. So if I want to go back to them, I'm not just totally lost. So that
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah. Like Joe says, instead of worshiping the creator, they worship the creation. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that goes back to being lovers of themselves.
absolutely. Look at all these people out there, and you see this. You see people with like 1 million followers, 2 million followers, and they
Yeah.
become basically the center of their own universes. That's what I feel like.
Hmm.
And there was a line in the movie that I think I mentioned to you before, Devil's Advocate, with Al Pacino in it,
Hmm.
and it says everybody becomes their own aspiring emperor. And that's what it feels like. Everybody is the center of the world. And how many centers of the world can there possibly be?
Right.
Just one, I think. And it's very interesting to see it. It's like every single one of those things is apparent right now. So
Yeah.
that's why I was so blown away by that. But that's not
Yeah.
love. That's not
No.
love at all. We're supposed to be reading about love.
Well,
uh,
I think you. I think to wrap that part up, it's just basically you got to focus on loving God first. So
Absolutely. I mean, let me ask you a question. Okay, you have someone who doesn't believe, but you want them to. Obviously, you want them to believe. You don't want to. I don't know. You don't want to throw a whole bunch of biblical. This is going to happen, and you're going to hell, sort of thing. You want
Mm-hmm.
to tell them about the love story, which is the Bible. I mean, what do you do? What do you tell them people? Do you think?
Well, I think that you have to kill them with kindness. You have to lead by example, for one. Um, so they have to see how you use it in your life, how it affects your life, and how you are as a person. Um, but I don't know. It's tough for me because I don't I don't believe in tap dancing around um, to not hurt somebody's feelings about what the truth is. So that is tough for me. I know that you are, um, supposed to shower them with love and try to teach them, um, and hopefully, convert them to Christianity, and then hopefully they continue to spread the word to,
Yeah,
disciples making disciples, right? Um,
yeah,
but it can be really hard because like you said, you have to do it a certain way. Um, I guess to not scare them off, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know how
that's
else to put
that's
that.
that's why I'm kind of wondering because if you give them a whole bunch of heavy stuff right at the beginning, it might put them off, and in the end result is you want them to understand everything about it, but you can't run them off right away. It's kind of weird because, like you're saying, you don't want to sidestep around stuff. You want to be honest about stuff, but then again, you want to show love for this person, and you want to show that
Hmm.
they are loved. So I don't know. That's what I'm really genuinely trying to work on. What you
But
do in
but
that
see
situation.
here's the thing. But you want them to learn about Christ, right? So I feel like sometimes we say, you know kill them with kindness and love them, and be the example, mimic Christ in your life. Um, that's great, but they need to know where that comes from too. Because otherwise you could just say, well, he's a good person with good morals.
Yeah. They have
So
to yeah, they have to know why you're doing it or, that
right.
God is working
So
through you.
I feel like you almost have to push them out. That I feel like they got to be motivated a little bit themselves to investigate it, or look into it, however you want to label it. Um, Maybe pointing them to a certain chapter, just or a certain book to start with. You know, starting with the New Testament, find out who Jesus is and what he done. Find out about his life, dying on the cross for you, the true love that he has for mankind. Um, and let them read it for themselves. Because I don't know. I feel like at the same, you can kill them with kindness all you want to, and you can love them and show compassion and mimic Christ, but they're gonna have to read it for themselves too at some point.
Yeah. I think like the Chad is saying how you mentioned it, I think part of it is modeling, but you have to know where the inspiration or why it is that you're modeling the behavior of Christ. And
Hmm.
I know that it works if someone knows why it's happening. Like if I start reading the Bible or you start reading the Bible, all of a sudden that a person that knows you that talks to you sees the change in you, and all of a sudden they're like, "Well, I want that change in me. He's reading this Bible. I'm going to try this Bible, or I'm going to try going to church or something where I hadn't done that in a long time." And then that's how they get their mind changed. But what you're saying is, if they see you and like, this is a really great guy, he's showing love to everybody. But why is he showing love to everybody?
Right.
What's going on there? So you actually have to make the effort to make sure that people know why it is that it's happening as well.
And maybe that is the first step. Maybe that is the first step of them seeing you and then want to know more. Like why is he like this? How can I be more like this? And that opens up the door for you to get them into the Bible.
Absolutely.
So I guess we would consider that the first step is you know mimicking Christ, or walking in Christ, and loving them, and let them I guess. No, that's not the best way to put that. I was going to say let them approach you about it, but I mean, I guess there is going to be some degree to that, but you should also be talking to them about Christ too. Again, in other words, what I'm saying is you should be actively trying to talk to them about it. You don't want to push it down their throat, but you should be witnessing to them.
Maybe it's like Jessica has here. Our job is to plant the seed. The Holy Spirit convicts the person. Jesus saves.
Yeah.
So we plant the seed as in, I was reading this great Bible verse the other day, and it talks a lot about loving somebody whenever they're being, let's say they're being mean to you, but you're going to show them love again. It's a really great verse. So something small like that, where they knew you read the Bible. So they say, oh, this guy's a Christian. He's doing Christian stuff. So, well, that's a really good. He seems to have a good attitude. Something maybe as small as that can do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've been looking for verses that go along with this, but I'm finding that was not it. The one I just looked down. Although I do think they're right. The chat is wise. That's what I found. The chat is wise.
It's pretty smart people in there.
They are. Look at that. We got Joe, we got Jessica, we got Craig, and the great part is like Joe's saying. So I didn't know that Jessica and Craig were believers too. That's awesome. The funny thing is that once you start talking about this stuff, the believers come out. They come out. So I don't know. I know that people are all active in their lives, but I feel like bringing it to the internet where we are is almost like a frontier that needs to be taken. We need to go to the internet and kind of take it back from godlessness, for lack of a better word.
And I think actively being willing to talk about it as well. Like you just said, when believers start talking about it, it brings other believers out to where they start talking about it. And this, I don't mean this in a bad way towards Jessica or Joe, because I don't know what they do in their personal life. I'm not judging whatsoever, but it made me think of this. We shouldn't only be talking about Christ when there's other Christ-like people around. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, in other words, like everybody goes to church on Sunday and everybody's all about praising God and talking about the Bible and this and that and loving your neighbor, and you're friendly and you talk to everybody. I want everybody to be like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday too. You know what I mean? And not scared to talk about it. Whether you're in a room full of non-believers, it's tough.
That's the real tough part right there. What about you, like family members who don't believe, and you want to talk to them more than anyone a lot of times, because let's say you have a parent that doesn't believe. You've known these people all your life. You're 30, as in your case, 30-something, I'm 40-something years old. You got to bring up that conversation after you have embedded in you a relationship that's been culminated 40 years and going, and you have to kind of almost go against the grain. It's like, I want to talk to you about Christ. Like, what? We have never talked about this. So are you one of them Bible thumpers now or something? Because you have a different relationship with family. They're going to come right at you, because if you have like brothers, I have brothers.
But I feel like if you don't, you're hiding your faith.
That's it. I think it is. That's something you have to do. And I don't know. That's tough. I haven't had to do that. Like with my parents, I have a couple questions I need to ask my father, because my father was in seminary to become a preacher, and he left the seminary. I've never asked him why, because I don't know. I don't know if there's something to be done there or not. There may be nothing to be done there. He could be living a great life right into Christ, but I don't know that. But I'm almost fearful to ask about it, because I've grown. This guy's my father. He's been my father for my whole life, and I've never had a conversation.
Do they actively
like this.
go to church?
They go to church, but because of COVID, they don't go out. They stay in most of the time. He goes to like HVAC jobs and stuff like that. He'll go to the job. He has a mask on, which I can't even believe. This is my father who made fun of the Democratic governor on a routine basis, but he goes out and he does all the the edicts from the governor. He has all the masks and stuff like that, which we don't have to get into mask stuff. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We'll forego the mask conversation.
Please don't get me going down that rabbit hole. We were doing so good. Don't get me started.
I didn't say nothing. Don't worry about it. I didn't say nothing. We'll edit that out, man. That's all right. It's just something, because it's something, some way I didn't expect him to act, but I was surprised by it. I didn't think he'd take it as serious as he did. Now, there's a reason he takes it serious. He's 70-some years old, but
Sure.
it surprised me nonetheless because of the way he acted beforehand. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And I'll tell you something else. I was at Best Buy yesterday and I got out of my car. It was raining and it's like 40 degrees. It's freezing cold outside. It's raining. I got out of the car and there was a guy standing there, like one of them homeless people that wander around in the parking lots. He was standing there. I had a 5-minute conversation with him. By the end, I didn't have any money, but I said, "We're going to pray for you." I was like, I was so proud of myself. First, I didn't get killed. And secondly, that I actually did something I want to do, which is try to bring up Christ to someone I have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
So I was patting myself on the back, and then I realized it wasn't me doing anything. It was God working through me. Then I had to remember, okay, let's keep that in check. So
Yeah. And that's funny that you bring that up because that's one of the things that the our pastor brought up this morning. Getting back to the love thing was, you know, he used homeless people as an example, you know, and a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this myself, that, you know, you'll look at someone that's homeless and you're quick to say, well, they done that to themselves. They're drunk, or they done this. They made bad life choices, and all these things. The same can be said about us, but yet Christ loves us anyway. So why should you not do the same for that person? Are they a drunk? Maybe they are. Maybe they did make bad life decisions. All of that's irrelevant. You love them the same, and you do for them the same. You know, my wife is, and you know, even years ago when I would think that way, you know, I'm not giving them no money. Go get a job. You know, my wife would always say stuff like, you know, I'm going to give to them, you know, whatever she had in her pocket or whatever. She roll down the window and give it to them, and she'd say, it's not about what they're going to do with it. It's irrelevant what they do with the money. I did the right thing by giving to them. And I always just used to brush that off, you know, but that she makes a good point there. You can't control what somebody else is going to do with money or with whatever, but you should be thriving to do the right thing and love them.
I think there's like two parts of that too. It's the fact that you're willing to help somebody and you don't know the outcome, and secondly, you're willing to release money and say that money's not as important as attempting to help somebody. Because part of that you're thinking, I'm not giving these people my money. I work hard for this money. But then I start thinking about it. It's like, well, you're treasuring money over the opportunity to help somebody. So even if
Yep.
they go and they buy a pint of whatever costs $5, Clan McGregor Scotch, as I remember when I was growing up, that cost $4. Probably doesn't still, but it did back then.
King Cobra, malt liquor.
King Cobra. Oh, the good stuff. Yeah. And they called it Old English, and it was wonderful tasting. Yeah. Oh my God. I got an idea there. After I talked to this dude in the parking lot, I went inside and I said, you know what? If I actually just got, instead of like carrying around money and handing money to people, because a lot of it's food related, you know, they haven't had anything to eat. What if I just got like a whole bunch of like $10 gift cards to fast food places and just carried them with me? That way, if I ran into somebody, I can give them one of those.
That's true.
My wife would probably love that idea. I'm gonna go spend $100 on Hardee's gift cards. Like what? It's like this is a good idea because then you don't have to worry about. Well, I don't know what he's gonna do with it. Somebody's gonna eat, even if they didn't want to use it on food. Now they're gonna, and maybe they'll think twice and say, "Well, there's a nice guy that made sure that I was gonna do something." I wonder why he did that. I wonder what made him do that.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
I gotta write that down. Actually, yeah, you're right. Where am I gonna write this stuff down? Not in the Bible.
Not saying you got to have $100 worth. You could buy $30 worth.
Yeah, how often does it happen? Right, you're not gonna be able to fall.
I
You're gonna see 10
don't
guys in one day.
I was about to say I don't know what Wilmington's like, and you might see it occasionally here, like if you go over to Brunswick or one of the bigger towns, but it's a pretty rare thing here. Now Chicago, different story. Every street corner. I mean, you could hand out $1,000 in gift cards every day. You know.
Oh wow, yeah. I don't usually see a whole lot of people. It's usually a surprise somewhere because there were places in Wilmington where you would expect to see a homeless person. Like if I went to certain gas stations downtown, I would expect to be accosted for money by someone waiting around the corner there. But here, you know, it's kind of random. Like this was in Jacksonville. This was in the Best Buy parking lot. Wasn't in a bad part of town. He was just wandering through the parking lot. Scared the crap out of me because I didn't see him. I got out of the car. It's raining. It's like, excuse me. I'm like, what? There's a guy like 3 foot away from me. But I don't know. I never felt like really that I was threatened by this guy. I mean, I felt like he was, I don't know if it's genuine or what, but I just didn't feel like I was in danger or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, like Joe says down there, he said his city's been a mecca for homeless. And you can tell a lot aren't really homeless, and that bothers me. I felt the same way in the past, especially when you see on the news people getting caught that they actually park their car up at a gas station, and then they walk down there and they beg all day, and that's how they make their money. You see these stories on the news where they earned $80,000 in a year or whatever just by begging. And I think it just gets back to they've got to live with that. That's what they chose to do, but you did in your heart what you felt was right, and that's what's important.
I think that's a good way to think of it because you can't concern yourself with their guilt, but you can do your part.
Right.
I think that's a very good thing to do.
I got a pretty smart wife, I guess.
Well, it's a common thing with people that talk with some sense. Usually their wives are pretty smart because they've had their wit sharpened by their wife coming back at them for their bad ideas. In my case, for 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I'm just kind of going through the Bible to see if there's any verses that center around what we're talking about here in the area which I'm reading now. And I see spots about suffering as a Christian. That kind of goes along with that too, because if you're sitting there and you're going to give money, you're going to give your time, and it may not come to anything. The person may waste all the money they give you. You may work hard and like a charity role, then it go to waste. But it's not the point. The point is that you make the effort that you're. And I saw this, and I think it was James that said, "Faith without works is dead." That was a section of the book. And I'll confirm that too, because I hate for that to be wrong. I know. Well, Craig said James was his favorite book. So Craig, was that in James? So I saw that and I was like, what is talking about faith without works? Because you don't need works to get to heaven. Because, I've been reading that. And if you get there, you have grace through faith. But the idea was that if you have faith and Christ is in you, then these works come out. They come out. You're trying to be Christ-like. So the works will manifest in your normal life. It's not that you can work hard enough to make it to heaven, is that the works are natural byproduct of having Christ in you. So, hey, great. Thank you. Hey, there you go, Craig. Yes, it is. Thank you.
I want to respond to something Joe said there. He said, but God does give us discretion, and I really try and help those who really need. The problem I see with that, Joe, is like, you don't know everybody's needs. Now, you may look at it and say, well, I think they're faking. I think they're standing on the corner just trying to bum money, and they're really well off, or they're not hurting for money, or they could go get a job, or whatever, however you want to look at it, whatever the situation is. If they're standing on the corner begging people for money and lying about who they are in their situation, I think there is a need there, regardless of whether it's about money or not. Obviously, there's something wrong. I shouldn't say wrong, but there's a need for Christ in that person's life for doing something like that. So whether they're truly homeless or not, whether they truly need money or not, whether I ran out of gas and I'm trying to get to Mississippi, or whatever the sign says, is irrelevant. If somebody's standing on that corner, I feel there is a need there, whether it's financially or not. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
If you're to that point in your mind that you're standing there wrongfully taking money from people, lying to get their money, they need Christ in their life. So that's still an opportunity to witness to that person.
I agree with you. I do. I'm trying to think about Joe's point and all the different ways it can be taken. God giving us discretion. I'm trying to think about if there's any verses, or maybe someone else can think of a verse where we get to make I hate to say judgment call, because in the word it's something that's not really permitted. But, using your discretion to say, calling out, well, that'd be more like calling out sinners that are in active sin mode right in front of you or something. I don't know about that, because if you can't tell where the money's going, I think you're right. I think you just got to do it, and maybe you pray
Hmm.
about it. And if the guy doesn't do right with the money, I mean, like you said, you did your part. You were acting Christ-like in that situation, and what
Hmm.
they do with it, you just hope that they will have a movement in themselves over it. But I
Yeah.
don't know. That's tough, but I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Man, I had something good and I don't remember what I was going to read. Oh no, here it is. It's just a cool verse in First Peter, and just kind of talks about how you act in front of people that don't believe, because it refers to non-Jews as Gentiles in this. It's First Peter chapter 2 verse 11. It says, "Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation." So basically, you're going to act the way you're supposed to act, and they're going to say, no matter what they say, even if they say something bad, you just keep acting the way you act, and eventually, hopefully, most of them see what you're doing and are transformed.
Yeah.
That's the idea there. And I guess Craig says that's the verse in James where the Holy Spirit convicted him and he was saved. It's very cool. I'll go try to find where that is. So, and then Joe says, I know Living Waters have really good tracks. You could give them with a gift card then. Well, that's interesting. Living Waters being the channel, giving him something from him too. He's a beast. He goes right out there in the belly of the beast and starts talking about this stuff. I'm like, this guy
Really?
is. Oh
I
yeah,
need to, I need to watch some of them.
you do. This guy, you're out there, and just imagine when you're watching him, dude. When he's out there on the street, imagine if you had to do what he's doing. And for me, I was like, yow, that's gonna take some getting used to. I'll be a little nervous doing what he was doing.
What, is he just what is he doing? Is he like going in rough areas or what?
Well, it's not like it's a rough area like we would talk about the hood or something, but he's going down, I think it's Huntington Beach, California. He's on the beach, like the boardwalk, and he's
Hmm.
preaching Christ, and he's singling out people that are willing to be singled out, and asking them, basically asks them if they are following the first four commandments or four of the commandments, and they're not, obviously. Have you ever
Sure.
lied? No. Have you ever stole something? Yes. So he says, well, right now you're a lying thief. He does that a lot. You're a lying thief. He says, have you ever blasphemed or used the Lord's name in vain? So he said, you're a lying, blasphemous thief. And then he asks, I'm trying to remember there's a fourth one there, but he's making sure that they understand that they're guilty of all these commandments, and
Hmm.
explaining to them that if they had to go to court, they would be found guilty. And sometimes they argue back and forth with him,
Yeah.
because obviously some people don't believe in what he's talking about. And
And
then he
see,
says it,
people are
Jesus.
quick. Not to cut you off there, but
No, go ahead.
I kind of get where people would interpret that is he's they some people would say, well, he's out there, you're pointing the finger at somebody else, you're judging somebody else. He's not. He's just pointing out the obvious that you're telling him. That doesn't mean that
Oh, right.
that's that's another big thing with the church and stuff now is, you know, like I like to say, you call a spade, right? And then they'll say, "Oh, well, the church is judging me." No, they're not judging you. You're just speaking the truth. We're not saying that we're perfect. We've done all those things too. You
Right.
know,
It's in
well,
the book.
the
It's written
difference
in the
is
book.
we know where our salvation comes from, and that we need to repent for what we've done.
Absolutely. And like I said, if you're quoting from the Bible, it's not that you're judging somebody, you're reading the word of God to them.
Hmm.
You're just the vehicle that they're getting information that they may be judged on, true, but not by you. You're just
Yeah,
giving them the information.
right.
And Joe says he does it nicely so people don't get mad. A couple of them got mad. A couple of them were good. There was one guy, he was an elderly. He wasn't elderly. He's probably in his 60s. And he was shouting back and forth with them the whole time. Well, the guy wasn't shouting. The pastor wasn't shouting, but he was ticked. He wouldn't even let him hardly talk. So it was interesting.
Yeah,
You do need to check it out. It's something.
cool. I'll do that.
Yeah, you should really definitely do that. Oh, here's James right here. Faith without works is dead. What good is it might? Well, James 2, chapter 14. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, which goes right along with what we're saying here. If I'll read that again. If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Interesting, because you
Yeah.
just got done reading a whole
Faith
bunch
without
of Paul.
works. That's and how often do you see that in today's world? And I think we're probably all guilty of that. Like we've talked about before. Again, I'm not gonna go down that wormhole, but say I'm a person of faith. We're people of faith too. You
That
can say
smells
you're.
political. I
I
smell
know,
politics.
I know. We won't go there, but
It's all right. I know what you're saying.
you can say you have faith all day long, but if you're not actively trying to be a disciple for Christ and spread the word of Christ, how can you say you have faith?
That's right. Because if you have the faith, then you're going to be moved to do the
Right.
works.
Then you should be actively wanting to spread the word.
Because it looks like we have a whole bunch of believers in here. But, we don't always have believers in here. I mean, Susie's not a believer, which I'm glad she comes in here. She's not here now. But I like the opportunity to talk about this stuff. And plus, I know you are more so than me, but I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm still working on that. And you know a lot about it. I mean, you read it more recently in completion. But
you don't want to give me a test on that.
Hey, take these compliments, Beaver. Just take the. We're gonna have a test on Ezekiel at the end of the show. Yeah, let's pick something obscure from the Old Testament.
Let's not do that. I will
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you read it. You read it. I'm still working on it. I'm like a kid here trying to read it for the first time almost. But so we can't lecture people on the Bible. We can just tell what we read, and it's coming off the page here. Try to get it to come off the page where it's not us just talking about something. It's from the Bible, and a lot of it's going to be New Testament stuff because that's where I'm at personally. So a lot of my stuff comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not us. It's something moving through us, basically.
And Jessica makes a good point in the comments. She says, as long as you remember that works alone don't get you into heaven. And I think that goes back to the heart of the person, that you're wanting to give just to give, not to put yourself up on a pedestal or to give yourself a gold star for what you look at me. I'm this great person that gives back to the community, or look at me. I'm this great disciple for Christ. It can't be about that. It can't be about you at all.
Right. And that's exactly what I was reading about people new to the faith, a cautionary tale. Oh, look, Craig's bringing up some Ezekiel. Yeah, bring up some Ezekiel. I had to find an obscure book. Craig's like, that's my second favorite book is Ezekiel. But see, I gotta see. I did that again. I looked down there, I saw Ezekiel, and I completely forgot what I was gonna say. I'm about to go read Ezekiel. I'll be back. I'm not really.
Curtis, is that the first time Curtis has commented the whole time? Did he just get here? Curtis, you've been here the whole time.
He's a lurker. He's lurking. He agrees. Lurking. He agrees with whatever it was. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. And we'll go back to Joe here. That is like Phil Robertson tells a story about a guy stealing his fish. Oh yeah. Then he comes down there and says, "I'm going to give him all you want."
Yep.
Never did it again, did they?
Nope.
I'm pretty sure, if I remember the story correctly.
Said you don't have to take it. Come down here. I'll give it to you.
And that takes faith right there. You're just going to give it away because you're doing it in hopes that it will change their heart. I mean, you're not doing it just so you give away fish and they remain bad people. So he has to have faith for that one as well. That's tough.
Just got here.
Oh man, I'm glad you're here, Curtis. Curtis said he was fired up after last week's show. He's ready to watch another one. Then of course he gets here late.
Way to go, Curtis.
Way to go, Curtis. Way to go, man. You should have heard the stuff we talked about earlier. It was great. I'm just going to delete it after the show too.
You know who else I haven't seen either?
Who?
Where's Steve? Steve ain't here, is he?
Steve actually sent me a message on Facebook before the show, and he was hanging out with his woman. Yep, spending time with the wife. Said he may be a little late, and by that he meant the entire show, evidently.
Well, but you know what? He gets a pass. It's Valentine's Day, man.
I think so too. Well, last week was what? The Super Bowl?
That don't count.
No one was watching the Super Bowl anymore. All they were talking about is how much
How awful
social
it was.
justice was involved. Yeah, how bad it was. Oh man. Oh, you know what though? It is 9 o'clock, and we need to do the devotional.
Let's do the devotional and get out of here.
Yeah. Instead of me just wandering the Bible for verses, that's a good idea. So, well, the devotional, and I have a picture of it here. This is the devotional that Beaver found, and now we both use it here. And called Stand Strong 365 Devotions for Men by Men, Our Daily Bread. That's on the front cover there for people listening as a podcast, which, hey, don't forget, you can listen to this whole show as a podcast. It's on iTunes, Men with Issues. If you can't find it, let me know. We'll find it for you. It's all
I don't
right.
even know what's the Android version of like podcast stuff. You just have to download individual apps, I guess. Whatever
Yeah,
you want to use.
I always suggest Stitcher. Stitcher's a good app for Android, but there's like Google Play too. People use Spotify. There's all sorts of stuff you can use.
I
But
gotcha.
I use Stitcher or Podcast Addict, and we should be on all those. Let us know
Gotcha.
if we're not. Let us know if we're not.
Yeah, I'm an
Okay.
Apple person, so I don't have all that Android stuff. I don't understand how it works.
I got you, Apple, right? That's good.
Yeah,
It is nice.
Jessica said
Podcast app's good.
Stitcher or Castbox. Okay.
I don't know
Well.
what Castbox is. There's a lot of them, basically, especially on Android. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do this for
If
you.
you have some type of app and you don't find us on there, let us know. Men with Issues
yeah.
podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, this is
All
all
right.
you, man. You ready? I'm gonna put it up
Yeah.
on the screen. You can read it up either spot. I put up the devotional for you guys to read, and then Beaver's gonna read it too.
Yeah, I'll just read it on my book here. I think it'll be easier.
Yep.
So today's was Girl in the Yellow Coat, and it's referring to, it's about Genesis chapter 2, verse 18 through 25. Chapter 2, verse 24 reads, "A man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." And so the story that the writer's using here, it said, "It was her yellow raincoat that first caught my attention, and quickly I became increasingly interested in this cute freshman with long brown hair. Soon I worked up my courage, interrupted Sue as she walked along reading a letter from a guy back home, and awkwardly asked her for a date. To my surprise, she said yes. More than 4 decades later, Sue and I look back and laugh at our first uncomfortable meeting on that college campus and marvel how God put a shy guy from Ohio together with a shy girl from Michigan. Through the years, we have faced innumerable crises together as we raised our family. We've negotiated parenting 4 kids, and we've struggled mightily with losing one of them. Problems big and small have tested our faith, yet we've stuck together. Today we rejoice in God's design spelled out in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. To leave our parents, to be unified as man and wife, to become united as one flesh. We cherish this amazing plan that has given us such a wonderful life together. God's design for marriage is beautiful, so we pray for married couples to sense how awesome it is to enjoy life together under God's blessing."
That was impressive.
Man, you ain't right about like I've already read this like twice today, and then you read it again. You struggle when you're on the spot, like trying to read.
You did way better than I did last week. Last week was like a car wreck when I was trying to read it. Yeah, see, Joe says Beaver reads real good. Yeah. You know what jumps out about that story? It really hit me when I was reading it earlier is that they lost one of their children. And that jumped out at me because I was thinking about it. If you live a godly life and you have Christ in your heart and you lose a child, you have comfort for the future seeing that child again in eternity.
Well, here's that did jump out to me. Let me tell you what jumped out to me the most.
Okay.
God's design for marriage is beautiful, right there towards the end.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Think about that. God's design for marriage is beautiful. So if you will go off of God's design, I feel like you can work through anything as a couple. If God's not the center of your relationship, and me and Anna have struggled with this, you still struggle with it to this day. God's got to be number one in your relationship. If he's not, you're going to have a hard time. I feel like, personally. But if you'll put him number one in your marriage, it'll help you get through anything.
There is nothing else to say. That was perfect. I shouldn't even have said that, but I have to indicate that we're going to end the show in some way, shape, or form. But that was perfect, man. So in that spirit, I think since you speak with such perfection and you can read above a second grade level, which is my level, evidently.
I don't know about all that. I'm from Chicken Spoke, bud.
All right, you watched the show last week and you come back to me. That was painful. But I figured, well, if there's anything else you want to discuss, that's fine. But if not, then that was a great way to end it.
Yeah, I'm good. I think I've said all I need to say.
All right. Well, in that case, listen to the podcast. If you want to be notified when we go live, I'm so glad I'm remembering to say this time. There's a link in the description and you can sign up for text notifications. So right before we go live, about 30 minutes before, I'll shoot you a text. It'll give you a link to the show so you can watch it on your phone or whatever you want to watch it on. And then, of course, the podcast will come out a couple of days from now. Typically, I think it's during the day on Tuesdays when I put it out. So I think that's about it. You can follow us on Facebook. We are on Facebook. And I think that's in Instagram we're working on.
It's in limbo right now. Bear with us.
Just make a new one. I don't know how to get in there.
Okay, guys, look for it on Instagram. I'll make a new one.
Yeah, we'll put a link to it in the description once that's done because Beaver's gonna work on doing the Instagram. I did an Instagram for Man with Issues before, and it's been so long, I have no idea how to get back into it. And
last week, just to give the story here, last week Zach said, "I'm gonna find I need to get back in there. I don't know if I remember the password stuff, but if I can find it, I'll let you do the Instagram stuff." I said, "Okay, well, just work on it, let me know." And then I think it was like Wednesday or something, I text Zach and I said, "Did you figure out anything with Instagram?" He's like, "Nah, not yet." And then nothing else was said up until this point right now. So I take that as let's make a new Instagram.
I wanted to say something because it was hinging upon me trying to find this password, which I have no idea. I just don't have any idea. And I want to put it out there just so you know that I accept responsibility for not being able to do that. And probably be better for you just to go ahead and create something where the avatar will be centered and so will the content. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You got to figure out a way. I'll make a new one. I don't have a problem with that, but you got to figure out a way to delete that old one because otherwise, when people search it, it's going to pop up two different ones.
Back to the drawing board, Beaver. Not going to find a way to get in there. I'll figure it out eventually. But at least if I know there's a new one, it takes the pressure off of trying to find it real fast, so you can work on it. You can have something to work on then, and whatever content you want to put up on there. So. But you threw me for a loop earlier. I know we had to go, but I was on like Facebook earlier and I said, there's a post from Men with Issues. So I don't remember making a post and you had made a post. And I think that's the first time you've made a post since we started sharing the page. I was like, what is this? Oh, this is real good. It was a real good post. So y'all check that out. It's pretty good. So I just want to put that out there. No problem. It was good. I was reading this like, I don't remember doing this. I said, oh, it's not me. That's why I don't remember doing it.
Who put this on here? I don't remember time for this.
Yeah, it's funny thing is if I look closer, it says published by Justin Beaver. So I could have put 2 and 2 together or spelled out right in front of me, but I didn't. But okay, guys, happy Valentine's Day. I guess I'll go ahead and talk us out here, Beaver. Is that all right?
Go right ahead.
All right. So happy Valentine's Day. Don't forget about the stuff we just told you. There's links to all of it in the description of the video. And we shall be back next week, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.